Hi friends, I'm Miss Carrie from Monroe Street Art Center, and I'm excited to create a Fabergé inspired Easter egg with you today. These eggs are inspired by something from Russian history that were given as gifts for Easter. So I hope that you enjoy the process and have fun with it, and let's get started. Okay everybody, we are going to get started on making our Fabergé inspired eggs. So I wanted to start out by showing you some examples of actual Fabergé eggs. They're jeweled eggs created in St. Petersburg, Russia between 1885 and 1917. They were made for Russian czars, which are like kings, and a lot of them were created as Easter gifts for their wives and mothers. So you can see that they are all unique, each of the ones that I'm going to show you. And they have kind of intricate patterns on them, but they're all different as far as what inspires the design. So this is supposed to look like a rose trellis. This one is inspired by the lily of the valley, which is a type of flower. This one is titled apple blossom egg. And all of these eggs that were created, they think that they made about 69 of them, and 57 of them still have survived today from when they were created in the late 1800s or early 1900s. And they're at different museums all over the world. And this is one of the most famous ones, which was created for a coronation. So you can see there's lots of intricate patterns and they use various jewels. And it's really cool to see something that was created so long ago and then be able to make your own artwork that's inspired by something from history. So our very first step is going to be to draw the shape of an egg. I am going to use up the majority of my paper because it gives me more space to be able to paint and draw inside for my design. So when we think of an egg, it's gonna be bigger at the bottom and then kind of smaller at the top. So it's sort of like an oval that has a larger bottom. It's okay if you need to draw it a couple of times to make sure that you get the shape that you want for your egg. It's kind of got like a funny dip on that side. So there we go. I think I have the size that I'm looking for. I'm gonna go ahead and erase some of my extra pencil lines. So now that I have my sort of outline of my egg, I can go ahead and get started with the design on the inside. So you can see that this egg that I made previously is really inspired by this imperial design because I really liked the idea of these kind of diamond shapes and then the jewels in between each spot. So that would be one option, and you can absolutely do that. I think for this egg that I'm going to work on now, I am going to make something that's inspired by the apple blossom egg. So I'm gonna start by drawing some tree branches that maybe start on this side and work their way across my egg. Maybe I'll make some more branches that come across on this side. depending upon what you like to draw or what you're interested in, your egg is probably gonna look different than mine. And that's okay, because sort of the cool thing about being able to make art is that everyone gets to make what they're interested in and what they want their own piece to look like. So I'm adding some extra branches coming off of my apple blossom tree. Okay, so now I have the shape of my branches ready to go. I'm just gonna fix this little spot because I don't really like how that shape looked. Okay, so now I am ready to add some leaves and flowers to my tree. And so this is when I think about where I might want to put the jewels on my tree. I really think that the flowers are where I'm going to want my jewels to go. So as you're working on your design, you can start sort of thinking through those decisions for yourself, where you might want to put the jewels on your piece. Okay, so now I have my flowers drawn, and I'm gonna go back in and I'm gonna add some leaves. So now I have my egg shape is done, my branches are done, and I have my flowers and my leaves drawn on my branches. So the next step in this process is to use our glitter glue. And this is going to be used sort of the way that the metal is used in these eggs. So I see that on this egg, the branches are all kind of a shiny gold. On this egg, sort of the same thing. In between the jewels, the lines that were created and the design is done in a gold metal. So if you're gonna do a more geometric egg, then you can outline your lines with your glitter glue to give it that appearance of being golden. So I'm gonna go ahead and use my glitter glue to outline my branches. I'm also going to do the exterior of my egg. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the glitter glue, and it'll come out kind of quickly, but I'm gonna start and I'm gonna squeeze really gently to start. If I squeeze too hard, the glue is just gonna go everywhere. And I'm going to just follow the outlines for my branches. make sure that I am outlining all of my interior lines first, and then doing the outside of the egg at the very end with the glitter glue. And I'm turning my paper so that I'm keeping the wet glue away from my hands. As I get farther along, I might need to push some of the glue down from the top closer to the opening, a little bit like toothpaste. Okay, so now that I have all of my interior branches outlined in glitter glue, now I'm going to go back and outline the exterior of the egg. Okay, so now I'm all done outlining all of my lines with glitter glue. I have my branches outlined, the exterior of my egg. Now the next step is having to let all of the glue dry before I can move on. Okay, so now my glitter glue is dry and I am ready to start painting my Fabergé egg. I have a small cup of water with my paintbrush, my watercolor paints, and a paper towel to wipe my brush off if I need to. So because I was really inspired by this apple blossom egg, I think that I am going to go with a green background, similar to that egg. You can really choose any color that you want. When we are working with watercolor paints, something to remember is that the more water that you use, the lighter the color appears. The less water you use, the darker or more vibrant the color will appear. Because this is an egg is sort of a rounded or similar to like a sphere. It's a three-dimensional shape. So in order to make it feel a little bit three-dimensional, I'm going to work on painting it darker on the outside and keep it lighter towards the inside of the egg, because that's going to give it a little bit of that three-dimensional feel. So I'm starting with my green paint, and I'm going to begin painting from the edges in. On the areas where I want it to be lighter, sometimes I'm not even going to dip my brush into the paint. I'm just going to use a little bit of water on my brush to move the green paint that is already on the paper and spread it around. If you get too much water on your paper, you can always use a dry brush to sort of soak up the extra water in paint and move it around. So now I have all of the green green parts of the background of my egg painted. And now I'm gonna go in with the brown and fill in my branches. Branches are painted, I'm gonna go in and I'm going to paint my apple blossoms. I'm choosing to paint mine pink. Most often when you see apple blossoms and cherry blossoms in the spring, they usually have pink petals. But again, this is your own piece of artwork, so it's really up to you. Okay, so now my blossoms are painted, my branches are painted. My last bit of painting work is going to be doing the leaves. I have a slightly different shade of green in my palette, and I'm gonna go ahead and use that for my little leaves. So now I am all done with all of the painting. I want to make sure that I now let this paint dry before I add the final piece, the gems. Okay, so the final step in creating our Fabergé egg is to put on our jewels. So everybody got a few of these sparkly gems, and they're all different shapes and colors. So you can sort of mix and match which ones you place where on your egg. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use my glue stick, and I'm just gonna sort of scrape off a bit of glue. If you have leftover glitter glue, you can also use that. And then I am choosing to make my jewels the center of my flowers. Scrape a little glue and then place your gem. So there you go. Now I'm done with my Fabergé inspired Easter egg. And whether you have made a sort of naturally inspired egg like this one, or a more geometrically inspired egg like this one, I hope that you enjoyed the process. Thank you and happy Easter.